And it's not just Steph Curry, it's the Nathan Adrians of the world, the Leonidas of the world, the Angela Naas of the world. And if we could sort of understand their biology and how they perform at a level, what are sort of the applications of that, not just from performance, but even just a health and wellness perspective. So these are the motivations behind what, Fitbiomics and what we're doing. I also just want to think about the wellness generation, and how this is applicable not just to super athletes, but if you look at in America today, there's over 70 million people alone that live active lifestyles, and their number one purpose for exercise is health and wellness. They're spending over $200 billion a year. And again, it's not just elite athletes. These are everyday athletes, weekend warriors, committed competitors, health seekers. These are people not just in the Olympics, it's people on Pelotons or CrossFit or Equinox. And there's a huge sort of like market opportunity in terms of nutritional interventions that could benefit these people with these lifestyles. And so the topic that we're talking about today, and we're big believers in, the new frontier of human health and wellness actually starts within our gut and in our microbiome. So kind of to lay the foundation, what is our microbiome? What is our gut microbiome? It's basically an ecosystem of microorganisms, predominantly bacteria that live in on our body. We have trillions of bacteria and microorganisms in our gut, and they greatly influence our health, development, our functionality. If we look at what these things do in our gut from a holistic perspective, they really drive things such as energy metabolism, protein metabolism, neurology, and immunology. I think the current status in the field is, let's look at sort of disease phenotypes. What doesn't work in their gut? How can we correct it to promote health? But I think what's exciting, an opportunity, and what Fitbiomics is doing is looking at super performers, the most fit people in the world. What does work in their gut from a bacterian and probiotic perspective, and how does that drive their optimal physiology? And I'll just say some of the things we could talk about when you think about your gut. What are these bacteria doing? A lot of different things. They basically interface with everything we eat. So they break down carbohydrates, protein, fats, all these things. They break down lactic acid, they produce short chain fatty acids and neurotransmitters. So anything you could really think about that's driving holistic health and sort of our physiology and functionality pretty much originates in our gut. In Fitbiomics, as we mentioned, what we're doing is we're working with elite athletes, to see what's going on in their gut, what's driving optimal performance. We're decoding their microbiomes, their community of bacteria. We're then using that to translate into next generation probiotics that could benefit broader populations and communities. After St. John's, I took a step down. I went to Harvard to do my postdoc, spent a lot of time working on the technology there, published some papers that were well received, covered in ESPN, the New York Times. I think this speaks to the excitement about the technology and sort of the mass pop culture appeal. We then also spent a lot of time since Harvard translating our discoveries into actual next generation probiotic capsules. We spent a lot of time sort of beta testing and prototyping them, interfacing with a lot of different consumers from a health and wellness perspective. And what we're really seeing is that these next gen probiotics are benefiting people, not just in terms of digestion, but holistically also in terms of energy metabolism, improved quality of sleep, and recovery. So again, this is a new frontier of how our gut is really driving holistic benefits for everyday athletes and consumers. I'll just kind of wrap it up there. I think if you look at the status quo in the industry now and how we're sort of driving peak performance, gut health and active nutrition are pretty much orthogonal. It's essentially like, hey, I'll either eat a Chobani or I'll drink a Gatorade. Right? The question is, can we do better than electrolytes and whey protein? And the answer is yes, right? And the source is actually in our gut. So Fitbiomics endeavors to create a new category of functional nutrition where we're basically looking at next-gen probiotics that work in super athletes and now translating those into supplements that could benefit everyone. And I'll kind of end there. We spoke about Nella. We're excited to say that after years of cutting-edge research and technology, we've translated that basically into a capsule, again, to drive gut health. We're just scratching the surface. This really is a new frontier. This really is an evolution of not just probiotics, but health and wellness and performance. So Nella is available to everyone, first applications for gut health. And then we have a lot of cool innovations in the pipeline as far as things such as endurance and lactic acid. And really, this is a new frontier and we're just scratching the surface of it. So With that, I'll kind of stop there so we could kind of go into the panel discussion and really have an engaging conversation.
Awesome. So thank you so much, John. And I'll give you a second there to clear the screen. And obviously, you hear so much about nutritionists and gut health, being out there in the media, but this is the first time personally I could ever see it being geared towards athletes and elite athletes. So this is exciting stuff. And by the way, let me just make note earlier that I just realized right as I threw it to you. I was so excited for this today. I've had way too much coffee. I was talking very fast, and I started talking contract extension. And then I started talking Mike Anderson, Big East Coach of the Year. My Fox color analyst mind started going, but I needed to make note of St. John's athletic director, Mike Craig, in terms of the congratulations for the contract extension. So the job that athletic director Mike Craig, Mike Anderson, just great stuff. For St. John's moving ahead. So duly noted. Now let's get to the panel discussion. Along on the panel with Dr. Jonathan Scheiman, Nathan Adrian, one of the world's elite sprint swimmers, 32 gold medals in major international competitions, co-captain of the 2016 USA Olympic swim team, 5-time Olympic gold medalist with wins in Beijing, London, Rio, and looking for a return to the podium in Tokyo. Nathan, welcome to the panel. Leah Neal, 2 times Olympic gold medalist in London and Rio, co-captain of Stanford's 2017 NCAA championship team, co-founder of Swimmers for Change, a great organization that promotes diversity and inclusion in the sport. And Angela Naeth, former North American Ironman national champion, multi-triathlon titles. She perseveres in the sport while confronting the daily rigors of living with Lyme disease. We'll get into that a little bit later. And founder of I Race Like a Girl, another tremendous organization, the largest global all-women's endurance team. So Jonathan, before I open it up to the panel and individual questions to Leah, Angela, and Nathan, how did you meet these athletes and how did you introduce them to gut health? Take us a little bit behind the connection to them.
Yeah, they're all sort of fun stories, and some of them are all of them are organic. Well, I think Leah and I go back a little while. One of her brothers is a friend that I played high school basketball with. So, I think we've chatted before, and I think she's seen me go from being a basketball player to a scientist. And I think there was a natural opportunity to talk about what we're doing. I think Nathan is interesting. I was at the Rio Olympics and somehow found myself at sort of the USA swimming after Olympics events. And I basically had 20 minutes to run around the room to tell all these elite athletes about gut microbiomes and next generation probiotics. So it was an interesting story. And then Angela, actually reached out to us when we published our paper in Nature Medicine and really interest in sort of gut health and what probiotics could do to benefit her. It's always an interesting conversation when you talk about GI tract and gut health and microbiomes and collecting biological samples. But I think all of these athletes really are pioneers and forward thinkers and really see the vision of how our research could benefit not just them, but a lot of people in the general population.
That is tremendous. And Jonathan, let me first start off by saying that I've been a color analyst with Fox Sports for men's college basketball for nearly a decade, and I've never said the words, he's gone from a men's basketball player to a scientist, for the record. So moving forward, let's start off with Angela. Angela, tell us about how the battle with Lyme disease, what brought you to Fitbiomics, and just the background and how your personal health relates to all of this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I was diagnosed with Lyme disease a few years ago now, probably 2.5 years ago, and I've been on multitude of antibiotics and treating it. And as you all know, when you get on antibiotics, it just completely wreaks havoc to your entire system. And so I was doing a lot of research and trying to find out what would be helpful. And that's when I came across Jonathan's research and reached out. I've been on the product for about 10 months now, and it's just been invaluable, I could say. I'm off antibiotics now, and just the changes I've had over the last 10 months, just in terms of my recovery, feeling better, my ability to digest my food a lot better. I used to have a lot of issues, especially being on the antibiotics, and like it just takes your system a long time to get rid of that whole process. And so I kind of consider it my building blocks in terms of coming back to health. And just recently in the last few months, I've noticed a significant change. And I think it's just because of the long-term use of the probiotic itself.
That's very interesting. Nathan, you've spent years competing at the highest level. You've seen many changes regarding the sport and athletics in general, whether it's training, practice, and nutrition, I'm sure. How those concepts have maybe changed to where, gut health and this form of science, technology, and health can affect you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really like looking back, it's pretty remarkable just to like see where sports and sports science was when I was like growing up, right? It was kind of basically like they had a decent understanding of everything, but it was like train hard and go to the pool and swim as hard as you can for 2 hours. And going back, I mean, no one would ever do that again at this point. With knowing what we know now, you do a ton of interval training. You kind of mix up the different systems that you were, working on, and kind of periodize it through the different portions of your season. So that is like that's really interesting. And then not only like it's kind of funny. My desk is kind of a mess. I guess it's only funny to me, not my wife, but. I literally have like all these crazy things on my desk, right? I have this. This is like a muscle stim device. It helps activate some muscles that kind of get turned off. I have this right here. These are blood flow restriction cuffs. Just another training modality. You can kind of do a really good low impact workout with that. Recently just got sent this neurostim device. I mean, you literally put it on your head and it sends a little electricity through your frontal lobe. I know they make some that go through like your motor cortex, but I don't have one of those. But yeah, I mean, this is all just really fun, exciting stuff. Like, why do humans keep getting faster, like stronger? It's like for a while, like certainly it was due to anabolic steroids. Like let's call it that. But there are tons of clean athletes like that are getting the training regimens today and the recovery modalities today that are just making a massive, massive difference in who they ultimately become as an athlete. And I think that's just so cool and exciting. Like I know in swimming, like, for a while there, we had these like technical suits that were in 2009, they were introduced. Every world record got reset. And then in 2010, they banned them, and everyone was like, "Oh, those records are going to last for so long. It's crazy. It's we're never going to see world records until the next generation." And 5 years later, here we are. The 5 years later was like, they started falling, and now there's only a couple that are left from that era. So like, if you're doing the same training or doing again the same recovery modalities that you were doing 5-10 years ago, like you're falling behind at this point. Like, and this is that cutting edge stuff that you need to know or at least be aware of in order to stay on top.
Great stuff, Nathan. Leah, almost staying on the same theme, what are some of the microbiome technologies maybe either you wish you had earlier in your career, or how you see this almost affecting maybe not even just you personally, but your sport per se moving forward?
Thank you for that question. I think Nathan touched on it. It's definitely very exciting to always see progress within sports, but then within technology and society as well. And what Fitbiomics is doing by sequencing athletes' microbiome and taking that data and like making a consumer product with it in the form of a probiotic is very new frontier, as John likes to say. And yeah, like initially when I had heard about it, obviously there was nothing like it before and there was nothing to compare it to. But that just goes to show how well, now knowing it, it just makes so much sense. Like, why not just study the best athletes in the world and make that available, whatever they've generated throughout just years of dedication to their sports, and make that available to study and to also eventually consume, like, for other people. So I think that's super amazing, like where we have gotten with technology, and just being able to be a part of this is super cool. And I'm really excited to see just all the other things that all the other doors that will open after this as well.
Thank you, Leah. And you know, Jonathan, it's funny because when you were a member of the men's basketball team during those years, I was an assistant coach at Rutgers. So you probably remember your days of being on the road in hotels, eating pregame meals. And I was, you know, on a coaching staff where I had a position to where I was planning a lot of those meals, you know, in the hotel, and we had strength and conditioning coaches and we had trainers, but you know, we never really talked nutrition. You know, we were planning pregame meals that had bacon and sausage and pancakes and all these meats and heavy foods and pastas, which we thought were, you know, necessary at the time. And like you said yesterday when we were prepping for this call, yeah, probiotics have been around forever in pharmacies. Why do you think it's taken this long to get to this point? You know, especially from an elite athlete's position.
Yeah, you know, I think everything evolves, and I think it's also what the rate limiting factor is technology. And you know, I think we're sort of fully immersed in a genomics era. And I always say this, you know, the first human genome sequence was published in 2003. It cost $3 billion and took 15 years to complete. Now,
Wow.
with next generation sequencing, we could sequence a human genome in a couple of days for $1,000. So you're talking about rapid acceleration of technology that's enabling more discoveries and evolution of human health and wellness. So this is, you know, a new frontier. And also, you know, just hearing Angela, Nathan, and Leah talk, you know, I think sports in general has been very much like, all right, you're it maybe start out as like you're the biggest or you're the strongest or the fastest, and there's this natural innate ability, and then you'll go with it. And then maybe it's just like, all right, let's drink a Gatorade or something like that, or now let's put on all this external stimuli to help us. But no one ever really looked at what's going on inside of us, right? And how that changes and how that sort of gets optimized over time. So I think it's a combination of enabling technology, combined with the fact that everyone wants to be better and look for new modalities to help them be better. So it's just a great time and confluence of these two sort of different, you know, sectors.
Yeah, and you know, the next question I want to pose for the entire panel, and it's a 2 or 3 part question, and I'll go back in the order that we started. But I think one thing that's really interesting is to get the athlete's perspective on, first off, what did you first think when you heard about Dr. John's research, and what eventually sold you personally afterwards? Was it more the extensive research, or was it a combination of the research and what you experienced personally inside, you know, chemically afterwards? You know, I think that's really interesting. I'll start back with Angela on that one.
Yeah, thanks. At the time that I reached out to Jonathan, I really was not in a very good position in terms of my health. And so I was actually trying to find anything that I knew could be of benefit. And so I reached out, and I just loved the fact that, you know, he's taking all these athletes and making this super pill basically. And I just was so wanting to get back to where I was in my health. And so reaching out to him and just talking to him, really just, I mean, I was ready to try anything at that point. I'm grateful that I did, though. And so when we started working together, I actually gave him samples and had to go through kind of a whole process of that. So just being able to be part of the research and learning about it as I went was huge for me. I think, you know, you don't get too many companies that really want to dive into that. Obviously, that's the main goal of this company, but it was just really awesome to be part of that and actually taking the product at the same time. And over the times they've made revisions, and I just started the new revision, I believe, about a week ago. And so it's just nice to be able to give feedback and be able to support that as well. Like I said earlier, one of the biggest things that I've found is just I'm able to digest food easily. I do not have any gut issues. When I used to run, sometimes I'd have to go find a forest or a tree or something because I would just always have all these different issues. And I honestly just have not had those. And the health point of where I was 10 months ago to where I am now is just, it's huge. And I'm just honored to be part of it because I can only foresee even future opportunities for my health with it. You know, I have world championships in, I think, 5.5 months, and that's my ultimate goal. And just seeing the progress that I've seen now with it, I'm excited. So
That's great. Nathan?
Yeah, so I think towards the end, I graduated college in 2012, and towards the end of my time, I was a public health major, and you know, you just have a class project or whatever, you read up on some studies, and that was kind of like when the microbiome started becoming like, oh, like kind of, that's when we were really scratching the surface of it. And then, you know, then you see studies or news articles talking about how a fecal transplant helped to cure like people's depression or a certain disease or this or that. And then you're like, your mind is blown. You're like, wait, my body's not really just me. You know, like my body is actually like me and all these other bacteria that aren't actually like genetically me, but they contribute to making me. And it's just like kind of this existential crazy thing, you know, when you first think about it. But and now they're coming out with research, and Jonathan's obviously the one to speak to this. But I mean, I think most recently there was like a cancer treatment that was immunotherapy, and they like changed the microbiome, and then the immunotherapy worked better. Like this is all just absolutely amazing stuff. Like immunotherapy itself is incredibly interesting to me, and then on top of that, your microbiome has some like way like its place in all of that. So certainly me as an athlete trying to perform my best, my microbiome plays a part in it. And I'm thankful to Jonathan for coming this route, trying to go the high performance route so we can investigate this. And this is what science is all about.
That's a great point. Leah?
Yeah, so like when John had first asked me to be a part of Fitbiomics, I think I'd already been like taking probiotics, but obviously not for anything like performance related, just like for digestion, because that was what it was offered for at the time, and that's what sets Fitbiomics apart from the rest. And also on all of our international team trips, our nutritionists would always have probiotics on hand as well, also for digestive solutions, because some people just were more sensitive to international cuisine. So I had been familiar with it to a certain extent, but when John went into explaining just what would be different about Fitbiomics in particular, that's when I got like really interested in it. And in him explaining it and like explaining the potential of Fitbiomics, it just made a lot of sense to be a part of it, and it just made sense to take this route, like with the future of probiotics, just really trying to reach its potential, because I feel like the probiotic industry, if that's what you would call it, has been very complacent in it as just treating it as a treatment for digestive issues. But yeah, so it's been like super exciting being a part of it. I was also really excited to see what my results were from the data that were collected from my stool samples that I supplied. So like one interesting thing that I learned was like my body metabolizes like broccoli or something, or turns it into energy like similarly to how like Popeyes, like his relationship was to spinach. So that was so that was cool to learn about. And yeah, just like being a part of this journey, definitely a lot that we have just scraped, and just the study of the microbiome and just realizing how rooted the microbiome is and just affecting everything else, and just finally giving it the attention and like focus it deserves.
Well, during this pandemic, personally, I've leaned way more towards Cabernet, Penne vodka, and chicken parm, unfortunately. But I am trying to get back, Leah, towards the path of spinach as well. But you know what Leah just brought up, John, I think is a great segue, because you know I'm sure if I go upstairs into my bathroom, I have a probiotic, you know, purchased from CVS somewhere. I think we've all walked through the pharmacy and we see, you know, 5 or 6 different brands and shelves. To put it in layman's terms, and I think that what Leah just brought up, I think that there's plenty of people watching here from the Red White Club or from the alumni base that probably has probiotics in their house. What truly makes Nella's probiotics different from other probiotics?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what I would say is that we're going directly to the source. And I think if you look at current probiotics that are on the market today, they've been around for decades without really any true innovation. They're mostly isolated from food, baby poop, the environment, or animals. And you know, for us, if we're looking to improve human health and performance and create new functional categories of active nutrition, we want to go directly to the source. And you know, all of us have trillions of microorganisms in our body, and there's tremendous natural diversity. So we're using this metagenomic technology to actually identify new strains that are naturally occurring and functioning in super performers. I'm a big believer in form fits function. So again, we're using this enabling technology to really identify these next generation probiotics. So these Nella probiotics, they're all sourced from athletes. They all function in athletes. And we're providing those to help everyone sort of be active and functional and reach sort of their best version of themselves. And I will, you know, just say it's exciting to actually hear Angela, Nathan, and Leah all say the same thing, that we are just scratching the surface. And I think if you look at gut health and probiotics, you know, we haven't really looked at, again, what's going on inside us and how all the bacteria in our guts truly are interfacing with everything we eat and everything we do. So again, these Nella probiotics are all sort of sourced from elite athletes. They function elite athletes, and they're provided and made accessible to everyone to be more active and fit.
That's great. You know, I'd like to, if it's okay with you guys, open it up to some live questions that are coming in from those that are watching. And once again, this could be very casual. I think it actually would be great if you guys all jumped in on this. But first question we have here is, how much of Nella probiotics ties into your current diet? You know, is having an elite diet, you know, part of the equation with this, or does the way I'm reading this question, or does Nella probiotics, can it make up for deficiencies in diet? They're looking to find out a little bit more on how it relates to exactly what goes in your body.
Hey, Vid, before you put that question, just want to let everyone know that Johnny's legend, Marcus Hatton, just joined us, so I want to let you know that.
Oh! Is Marcus Hatton there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I'm here. What's up, everybody?
How's it going, Marcus Hatton?
Man, all is well.
Former St. John's hoop star. Marcus, I was on the bench as an assistant coach at Rutgers when you had like 250 points at the Garden that game. It was 44 points. Jonathan saw action in that game. I saw a sweet photo of him in that one. It was such a blowout. Well, Marcus, jump right in with the rest of the panel here. And if you could, you know, give us your background to the St. John's fans in the community, and how Nella and Jonathan's research and how how has it affected you?
Actually, it's been very well. Let me give you a brief like rundown on who I am of my little resume. I played at St. John's with John in 2001 to 2003. Then I went on from there to play a couple of terms in the NBA, and then I overall had my long-term career in Europe in 8 different countries. So I'm retired. I've been retired for 3 years now. Me and John been in touch since then, and he was telling me about this great idea with the Fitbiomics, which is Nello now, that I was great to be a part of, but I was even more proud of him for the success he has created, and something that's so amazing to everything that we're doing now, especially through all this whole Corona mess, that everybody's so into their health. So I was glad that I was able to be a part of something great and amazing to offer to my people. As y'all can, I'm gonna turn my camera around. Let me see if I can turn my camera around so you guys can actually see. I'm actually having one of my training sessions now. So I'm in the gym, but I took the time out to, I took the time out to be a part of this because I wanted to hear a little bit more of myself. John had briefed me about everything that he had going in his vision on it, and I wanted to hear other people's aspect of it. But one thing for me about that I wanted to know, and I'll ask you guys as well, I asked John, is like, a lot of my clients, they always want to lose their stomach. So when John presented this, when he kept saying gut health, gut this, I'm like, maybe this is a great thing to offer to my clients, to sample and see how it helps them with their journey, because a lot of people come to me that want to lose weight, and a lot of them want their flat stomach. So I thought it was great to kind of tie in too, to see it firsthand.
Marcus, before we get to these other questions with the panel, you come from an interesting perspective, because here we are, in one sense, talking with, current Olympic swimmers that are, they're still competing currently for gold medals. You have this terrific basketball career, and you're more in the retirement stage. How do you look back on, how this wasn't around when you played, and then where you see the future of all of this going now with athletes that you're training?
Man, the way that the game has evolved, and people are taking care of their body, man, this is very important. So I know it's going to be something that's going to be major to top tier athletes, top elite athletes, because in 2001, 2003, like, it wasn't so much about what you were putting in your body. It's just like, you work, you go in the weight room, and then you go practice. So it wasn't so much about the gut health and performance and things like that. It was just like, you go in there, you do your little weight work, your strength and conditioning workout, and then okay. Jarvis tried to tell us about certain things, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the level to what people do now. So I'm definitely excited to see where this is gonna go.
Well, Marcus, I got to tell you, as a longtime Big East hoops junkie, I love the fact, when you played, it was the tight Allen Iverson, hairdo, and now in retirement, you've gone with the James Harden beard. This is very impressive.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, man. I mean, those are some great times, man. Some great memories. The fans of New York, the people in New York, like I call it definitely my second home, and I'm still up there quite often. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm like, man, Johnny's gonna talk, but I'm looking forward to doing like a Marcus Hatton Day in New York. We're just working on things that happen, make it happen now. Because he came to Marcus Hatton Day in Baltimore, which was like 4 years ago, maybe 5, and we was able to get something done then. So I'm looking forward to working and seeing all you guys, meeting all you guys.
Great, thank you, Marcus. And Jonathan, why don't we go back to that question that was posed, and maybe you could tee it up for Angela, Nathan, and Leah. But the question about how what you exactly eat relates to Nella, and then maybe we could get Angela, Nathan, and Leah's take. We heard the example with spinach before in the past, but if it's changed, or if it's had them, how it's made them look at their personal diets moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before jumping into that, I'll have to go on the record saying senior night at Madison Square Garden, Marcus had 44. I actually started that game, my first career start. I went 0 for 4. I couldn't make a bucket, but Marcus carried us that night as he did all season. So we appreciate
I don't
that.
remember those 4 shot attempts, but I remember the 44.
None of them went in. That's why. So, but what can you do? If I had Nella back then, I might have made a couple of shots. But I think it's a great question. The first thing I'll say is, like, Nella and microbiome technology, it's not magic, right? So I think it goes hand in hand with eating healthy. I think it goes hand in hand with training and taking care of your body, both physically and mentally. I think what it does is it supports all of that. And I think the notion that we're trying to say here is that gut health equals holistic health. So probiotics, for instance, in this first product that we're developing, again, everything that we put in terms of we eat or we drink, these probiotics help sort of like break those down, convert sort of food into nutrients that could then be better absorbed by our body, that could be used as fuel for energy. They could be used for protein metabolism purposes and things of that nature. They also could interact with our immune system and produce neurotransmitters that could help us with sleep quality and staying healthy. So, I think it goes hand in hand with a good diet. It's not meant to sort of like, you eat crappy or you stop training and this is magic. I think really what it is, it's to support all that. Because I think, as Nathan, Angela, and Leah said, they all have superfoods, or they all have sort of things in their gut that help them perform optimally. So now, sort of pair that with a probiotic that could only enhance that digestion, enhance their gut health. That will then help them sort of continue to train and perform at an optimal level.
Angela, let's go back to you about how maybe this has affected you personally with your current nutrition.
Yeah, I think Jonathan said it best in terms of it's part of a holistic approach. One of the things, it's part of my routine now. So I was taking it every morning, but now I take it in the evenings, just before I go to bed. And it just kind of sets the tone, I guess. Like I don't go and grab crappy snacks at night or anything. Like I take my probiotic, maybe some tea, and able to go to sleep well. I actually haven't looked at the research in terms of specific superfoods for myself, in terms of that, but just in a general sense, like if I take it every day, I just do not have any GI issues. And I used to have so many, like it just was constant almost every day. And I just, knock on wood, I honestly just do not have any. And that in and of itself has changed everything for me.
Nathan, thought on the dietary component of all this?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're going to get three of the pretty similar answers here. We live in a world of like marginal gains when you get to a certain level of elite athleticism. And that's why I have all these funny, weird gadgets around. Like if you have somebody who doesn't know how to absolutely train until their body screams at you that you want to stop, and be able to push your body to beyond a certain level. That's kind of like the baseline, I feel like, at least for swimming. And then you actually get the training in and that endurance, and then that, the ability to compete. And then once that kind of all rises to the top, then you're looking for these tiny little things that can just help you incrementally. And whether it's shocking my brain, doing blood flow restriction, or it's, processing my food better, or, as Jonathan has done research on, like maybe there's this lactic acid connection to it. We don't quite know yet. Those are all these things that can make the difference. And I won my 2012 Olympic gold medal by 1/100th of a second. So we're talking about as marginal as you can possibly get there.
And Leah, you brought up a great example earlier with the example of spinach and how it relates to you. How do you see diet, and even beyond, probiotics or not taking probiotics, but just diet and nutrition in general amongst fellow athletes you've been around competing against or training against recently?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you asked that question because I was thinking about that listening to Angela and Nathan and John answer that question. And it's funny because we're elite athletes, like we always get the same question, like, oh, so are you on a special diet? Like if I don't know, like we're at a restaurant or something and then like the dessert menu comes out, it's like, oh, are you even allowed? And like I've never been on a diet. I've asked my other like Olympic teammates like are you guys on a diet? Because I feel like I should be because I keep getting this question. And everyone has always said no, but they do get the same question. So I think yeah, it just comes down to just having it just like common sense, like having a good balance, a good nutritional balance. And but then there's only so much you can do with that. And then like Nathan was saying, like you're just always trying to find ways to uh, get better in increments. And this probiotic is that opportunity to get better because you can only do so much with your diet, like what you take in, like food wise, calorie wise. But then you introduce this probiotic and it just brings you over that edge and just gives you that much more to improve upon.
I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things because I think it's important to say, you know, to the every, you know, these are superheroes, right? And I think they've optimized their bodies to the pinnacle. And I think for them, marginal gains is what they're looking for. But I think if you translate this back to everyday consumers or everyday athletes, like it could be dramatic improvements. You know, and I think the notion of Fitbiomics is again seeing what's working in these superheroes, what's helped supporting their physiology from the inside out, and then applying those learnings to benefit everyone. I think the question was asked, like, is this just for like elite athletes? No, that's not the indication. You know, when we've done sort of our testing, it's actually been a wide distribution of folks. So you have people that exercise, you know, on a daily basis. You have people that exercise 3 to 5 times a week. And then you have people that don't really exercise. And what we're seeing is that across those different dynamics, we're seeing benefits. Because I think the notion of this is, yeah, our gut and what's going on inside our body has been overlooked. So I think if we could find ways to optimize that with next gen probiotics and microbiome technology, whether it's marginal gains at the Olympic level or just like, you know, dramatic gains at sort of like the everyday human life and performance level, I think this is a new frontier of optimizing all of that.
You know, Jonathan, that ties into another question that just came in. You know, how young can someone take Nella or start looking at gut health? Is this more college and on? Is this more young adult? Is this more you know, you made a nice comparison from elite athlete to maybe the average Joe that, you know, jogs a few times a week, but it sounds like they're asking more about a high school athlete per se.
Yeah, you know, for us, I think we've sort of worked within communities that are sort of like in the 18, sort of and up, 17. So sort of like towards the end of high school, then college, and then throughout. So we've seen a dynamic range between, I'd say, like 18 and maybe, you know, 65. And it is interesting, you know, even as we talk about aging and how that affects our microbiome, and there's a lot of research going on to like baby microbiomes and how the first 3 years of your life is the most impressionable from your microbiome. So, you know, Nathan, we should collect samples from, you know, your baby and track them to see if they become a super swimmer over time. But, you know, I think right now we're looking at sort of that 18 to 65 age range. And what we are seeing is that there's actually benefits across the board in different people in those age groups.
You know, Nathan, Leah just gave the example before, you know, being out with fellow athletes at a restaurant and you know, now here come the menus. Nathan, what about just, you know, guys that you're training with? And obviously all of you elite athletes are very health conscious and dietary conscious, but how many of them have you heard talk about gut health and probiotics like this?
The only ones are actually people that have stumbled across Jonathan's like presentations. And really, I mean, back to
So
just
this
kind of
is the
going.
new frontier.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, just back to kind of what Leah was talking about. I mean, 2016 in Rio, it was like we were given these little like probiotic packets, and it was because we were trying to prevent travel-induced diarrhea. You know, and that was the cutting edge for us at that point.
That's great. Leah and Angela specifically, you know, you're both, you know, founders, co-founders of terrific organizations, as we said earlier, Swimmers for Change, I Race Like a Girl. Has this inspired the two of you personally to perhaps pass this knowledge on to the younger generation, whether they become an Olympic athlete or not? Angela?
Yeah, definitely. Our team is kind of anywhere from 6 years of age to, I think our oldest member is 76. So we actually had a panel with Jonathan on board, and it's, you know, all the information that I get over the years, my experience, just everything, I really want to give back. And so any chance that I'm with a sponsor or I learn things, you know, I really try to provide that to them. Our youth team has about 25 members, and their parents are on the team as well. And so just conversing with them and being able to say, here, like, here's something that could be of benefit at all ages, you know, and it's something to try. I know a lot of the mothers that are on board, you know, they want their kids to be active and healthy and strong, and trying to look at all the little things as well in terms of changes for their future. And so I think something like probiotics is a very natural supplement that someone can take and just see if there are some changes for them.
Leah, what about Swimmers for Change?
Yeah, to Angela's point, I like to always just, whenever I speak to kids, like outside, even outside of Swimmers for Change, or just like conducting swim clinics and having speaking engagements, I just want to give them a like package, like expedited view of just like all the trials and errors that I've had to like go through, and just like tell them like, look, this is what works, this is what doesn't, just to like save them the trouble of having to learn by trial and error like I had to. So yes, probiotic and gut health definitely falls under that.
Oh, that's great. And I want to wrap it up with one final two-part question for Jonathan. So, you know, we're about to approach the 1 hour mark here. Time flies when you're having fun. We can't be on all night, but for the fans and for the viewers that we were not able to get to your question tonight, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can find Dr. Jonathan Scheiman everywhere on social media. Easy searches. Nella Probiotics is on Instagram, all social media networks. You could go to fitbiomics.com, fitbiomics.com. You could also go to nellaprobiotics.com if you're personally interested in this, as I am. nellaprobiotics.com. Jonathan, two-part question here as we wrap it, and we thank the Red White Club. But how did your time at St. John's and being an alumnus of the university help or inspire you, you know, moving forward with what you accomplished in your future? And someone had mentioned here earlier, they said when they registered about, you know, with Nella supporting men's and women's basketball at St. John's, how does that work?
Yeah, great questions. And again, thank you to everyone on this panel. I think this has been really fun and really inspiring for me to hear everyone talk about the technology and the probiotics. I think my time at St. John's was special. I always say I'm a New Yorker. So the fact that I was able to stay home and kind of play basketball for New York's team, win a Big East championship, win an NIT championship, was just amazing. It opened up so many doors for me. I always make this joke. You know, when I interviewed at NYU for the Ph.D. program, I think they accepted me because I played basketball at St. John's. Well, for other reasons. I mean, you know, I kind of had like an honors sort of GPA and stuff like that. So, I studied, but I think it opened up a lot of doors. And I think for me personally, I've always been motivated by how athletes and athletics really transcend sports. And it really could be transformative in terms of just larger issues in society. And I think even in this year, and you look at what sort of Angela and Leah and Nathan are doing for like health and awareness perspectives, just like how athletics really can be used as a force for good to really educate broader communities about many different issues, social issues, health issues, technology issues. So I think being a part of St. John's and then now becoming a scientist, I think we're kind of working with super athletes and superheroes to really inspire the next generation of scientists. And I think Fitbiomics and Nella is part of that. And I'll just say for Nella, I think it's kind of, surreal for me. There's basically anyone that's here that's listening that wants to be a part of the new frontier, that wants to try Nella and see how it improves their gut health. If you sort of, go on our website and purchase, a portion of the proceeds are actually going back to the St. John's women's and men's basketball team. So this is very much about giving back and, St. John's, Fitbiomics, and a new frontier of human health and wellness.
Right. And speaking of giving back, great job by Nick and his whole crew with the Red White Club. Once again, keep on supporting them. As we said at the top, Mike Anderson, Mike Cragg, just tremendous job and leadership going on, not just in men's basketball in the athletic department, but university and athletic department wide. And as we wrap this up, I just want to thank again Nathan and Leah and Angela. I think it was awesome perspective of what you guys have accomplished as elite athletes is so special in that sense athletically, but then to get your insight into this probiotics, which obviously Jonathan mentioned the new frontier, but I know how much I learned personally from all of you with just all of this. So I hope our viewers, and I'm sure they do, feel the same way. Once again, fitbiomics.com, nellaprobiotics.com, easy to reach out to Jonathan and the entire crew. So if anyone wants to go around the panel and have one last word, I will shut up and be done talking. And I'll give the floor to you guys to say goodbye. But I just want to thank all of you that did tune in for joining us here on behalf of St. John's University.
Thank you. All I gotta say is thank you. This was amazing. Nathan, Angela, and Leah, thank you so much. And, being a part of the team and helping us push things forward.
Thank you for having me and us.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
everyone.
you so much. Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful
Thanks
night.
so much, everyone. Great job. Go Red Storm. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Go Johnnies.